Welcome to this week's Money and Investing Show. This week you are in for an absolute cracker. Psychology is one of the most important things when it comes to making money, but not just simply making money, succeeding at any endeavor in life. You're going to get inside the head of a true world champion as you see what it takes to get to the absolute top of the heap. So don't take plenty of notes, make sure you take plenty of action and enjoy this show. Hey guys, welcome to this week's Money and Investing Show with me, your host, Andrew Baxter, and a bit of a change up in the lineup this week. This week we have a very special guest, and the term champ is one that gets thrown around a lot in Australian conversations. Oh, he's a champ, he's a great bloke. This time I'm blessed to be in the company of a genuine champ, the current IBO World Super Welterweight Boxing Champion of the World, my good friend, client, and no doubt about it, champ, Dennis Hogan. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I appreciate that.
It's good to have you in. It's been I think we've probably known each other now for what, probably maybe 5-6 years. Would that be about right?
Yeah, well, 2016, I think we met for the first time. Yeah.
There we go. And I use different metrics in life, so we can talk about years, or I think between us, it's probably 7 children. You got 2 girls yourself now.
Yeah.
And fun times being a dad, right?
Yeah, it is. Well, that's it. You know, if you thought you had free time, you know, before, that all changes, and well, if anything, it actually makes you a little bit more good with your time. You know what I mean? But it's a great thing. You wouldn't change it, and it makes you work harder as well.
Definitely. Well, having a great work ethic is what it takes to get to the absolute top of the pile, which you've done in your career. And what I'd like to try and explore with our time together today is probably different to what a lot of people would think. I want to get into the psychology of your particular game, and I want to look at the parallels between the fight game and trading and investing, which sometimes can feel like you're fighting the market too. And I guess in doing that, a lot of people, very few people have ever climbed into the square ring, climbed through the ropes, and I know what that really feels like. And as a kid, I was very lucky. I had the opportunity to box, and actually my coach Ricky Porter, who was the British welterweight champion, so similar weight division to yourself, back there in Swindon, was who I had the chance to get in and have a bit of a go with it. And it's very, very different to what I ever expected. Yeah, everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the face. Very true quote, that. So. It's actually a thinking man's sport. A lot of people don't think that, yeah? It's poor man's chess, but it's a very strategic sport, boxing. Tell us, I guess, how important strategy is on top of the obvious physicality of what the sport is.
Well, look, when you're in there and you're sparring, working your way up from amateur, you tend to just do it so much that it starts to become sort of like programmed in. You're in there, you're working hard, and it's very hard to hit people. It really is, and you've got to start setting that up. And the funny thing about that is, if you're going in consciously drilling yourself, like consciously trying to do it, you can almost start making more mistakes. You have to it's called a zone. You have to get in the zone. You have to watch your opponent, what he's doing, and you have to start to figure out where the chinks in his armour are, but you got to do it at a very fast pace, and you got to do it at the risk of taking bigger blows to your body at the same time. So throughout doing all of that for a very, very long time, you start to develop patterns, and that's one thing that it's my best attribute, is patterns. I'm very good at patterns, and especially in the ring. And then, when you talk about strategy, when you go professional especially, it's you then see what my strengths are, my opponent's strengths and weaknesses are, and we try to use that against them. And strategy is absolutely everything, and that's how I live my life, through strategy and experience.
Patterns are a really interesting thing. A lot of people have the idea that successful trading, for example, is about numbers, and I'd certainly refute that based on my experience. It is all about spotting patterns, because I guess once you've identified a pattern, it tends to repeat because it's a habit. And if it's an opponent that's got a habit or a pattern that you can identify, you can get in behind it and do what you need to do on the offensive, I would imagine. Yeah,
that's it. And there's it's a clear sign that is the case, because for me, that I'm good at it, because I've won nearly all of my fights, apart from a few big ones, but it does literally come down to that. Yeah.
So professional career now, what, 15 years? You had quite a long amateur career too.
Yeah, I had 160 amateur fights. That spanned from my first, I went to the gym from the age of 5 or 6. My grandfather was the local coach. First underage fight at 8, which is funny because I remember the gloves were actually down to my elbow. We would just get in and swing. Competitive fight at 11, and then from 11 to 25, 26 I went professional. I have 34 wins, 31 wins, 4 losses and 1 draw. So
it's a great record, and as I say, current and soon hopefully to be long-lived welterweight champion, super welterweight champion of the world, I should say.
Yeah.
The journey go on. I mean, it's an unforgiving one, and I think to an extent trading can be the same. When you're wrong, it's very obvious that you're wrong in the market, and I guess it is in the ring too when you've copped some punishment. There's also, I guess, talking of strategy and notion, certainly in the stock market, where there's a time to be aggressive and really push hard, and then there's a time to, I'm not going to say back away and retreat, that's not the term, but back off a little bit and either drop the pace or step back and re-gauge and reset. Yeah, and when you're in a good trending market, you can be very aggressive. When you're in a really choppy or more difficult market, it's a good time to regroup. How does that compare to being in the ring?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's in the ring, you're dead right. And when you say step back, there's sometimes you got to step back and reassess everything. But you know, you can do it quite smart because it's all ebbs and flows and it's all momentum. I always say boxing is all about momentum, in terms of, you know, say I was to fight you tomorrow. A lot of that will come down to, you know, if we were on par, a lot of that will come down to how you've gone in your last few fights. How I've gone, is my confidence up, is yours just down? You could be better than me, but you might have lost your last fight. And your confidence could be down a little bit. So all these factors all really just come in, and it's very important to just assess where you are in that moment. And you know, after a loss, it's a good idea to come back and get somebody at a bit of a lower level, and have a good win there, and that just sets you back up again. You know. So for me, I had gone through two losses, and you know, but people were still offering me big money for big fights, and I was like, no, we need to step back and we need to pull it back. We actually pulled back. We got a guy who also fought for a WBC world title a couple of years back. He had a bigger win record than I had, and we were in around the same age, and it was just a perfect fight at that time. And that was the winning streak that got me to where I am now, world champion. So that was the perfect time to step back and assess and stop just going for those world champion type fighters, and just pull it back. And now I'm a world champion through making good decisions. It's
really interesting. You know, again, a lot of people when they look at things go, oh, it's an easier fight. You're taking a sideways move. You know, you've lost your mojo. And trading again can be very similar to that. If you've come off the back of you know, a couple of trades that haven't worked out so well, and you've been giving yourself literally a financial hiding on it, that notion of jumping straight back in and doing the same thing over again is crazy. And taking that sideways step and going, okay, let's reset, explore what went wrong in the previous encounter that didn't work out too well, regroup from it, use it as a live fire exercise to check that your processes are working. So maybe take a trade that's lower volatility, trending a little bit more strongly, and get that tail wagging again, and then back in and push forward. It's not a sign of weakness, that's called being smart. Yeah, well, that's it. And you know, the way you explained it there, I was thinking it is the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing, and it is being smart too. Yeah, and the role of psychology in all of this, I think, is so important. And I want to maybe shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about resilience. So in terms of, you got a very early start with the gloves on. At what point did you come to the realization that your goal, and I'm assuming it was your goal, was to become the world champ? At what age were you? How did that goal come about, and how strong was it? Well, for me, it was, I was a slow starter. Like, when I say that, there was one, so I started very, very good and very fast, and I could actually stop guys. I've stopped guys in like 30 seconds and all that kind of thing when I was a kid, because I had that early. As we got older and we started becoming, you know, like later teens and that, men, it was a lot harder to do that because we were all good and physical at that point. But every time I would get to the national stadium for the national championships, I got up in my head about stuff. And even if someone, you know, and I don't usually win my first fight in a prelim, or it's called just the one before the semi-finals, and then I'd meet, you know, an Irish champion or something there, and
I'd end up getting beaten. And I might have beaten that guy before in a tournament somewhere else. Something was going on for me mentally, a block that I couldn't shake. And this went on for like 10 years. It was only when I finally said I was fed up going to. I was already boxing on the Irish team before being an Irish champion. It was so bizarre. And there was one time where I just said, I am fed up with this. I just said, I am already the Irish champion this year. I'm going in. 16 guys weighed in this time. And I came out number 1 because that was the year. I said to myself, this is it. So I tuned in. I said, I'm not taking this anymore. And I believed that I was going to win it. And it happened that I won it. And I beat some good fellas along the way that time. So I learned something about myself. I thought, okay, you really have to back yourself. Like you really have to, and you got to go all in. So I learned, that was a massive lesson I learned then, and then I started boxing.
Was there a specific catalyst you remember that was the thing that hit the switch on?
Well, there was because there's a female fighter in Ireland right now called Kelly Harrington, and she won the Olympics and she won a world championship for Ireland. And we were in Birmingham, and we were leaving after fighting Ireland versus England. And she said, "There's a book called The Secret." She said, "Give that a read." And I remembered it, but when the book, I didn't go looking for it then. But when the book finally did come past me, I read it and I thought, "Oh God!" So that was my issue. I'll never forget this moment I had reading the book. It said, "You got to feel as if you are." And I remember standing at my grandfather's door about to go in at the night, well, just before we went up to Dublin or it was the night before I stayed there, before we went up to Dublin for the Irish Championships. And I remember seeing a shooting star and wishing I would be the Irish champion. And I said, I had it all wrong. I was wishing I would be, rather than believing I am already.
Got it.
And that's the mistake that I made. And once I started to see that it was about embracing those feelings and seeing it already, then I was onto something. After that, it was really about going after the things you wanted. And up to this point, I've been able to make nearly everything a reality. So that was a turning point for me. You know,
that's an interesting one. And books sometimes can be, whether you're a reader or not, sometimes it's something you pick up. And The Secret's a great book. John Azaraf's a good buddy of mine, and I see the profound impact that he's had in his professional career with so many people in that belief system. And then when you look at, I guess, sort of habits and goal setting, everyone sets a goal around a theme or to have something, but it's the habit, the daily training, the discipline, the focus that starts to make that goal a reality. It's okay wanting something, but you've got to have those steps toward it. But once it becomes your identity, as you say, when you see yourself as being the champion, perhaps even before you are, the belief is in there. That's the identity that you then have.
Yeah,
that's a very, very strong goal to set.
Well, you're right, and that means now the bar is up here at all times. I actually had a moment where I walked in. My grandfather, tattoo of my grandfather there, his very last words to me was, "Give it everything you've got." Right, so I said, he knew I was partying at the time. He said, "Give up that drink, son, and give it everything you've got." So at that point, I did. I gave up. I didn't drink for 8 or 9 years, and. But I walked in. When he said it to me at first, it didn't land. It was only after that draw that I had was actually in my 3rd fight, and then we went home. My grandfather was sick, but he was in a coma. I didn't get to speak to him. I left, and when I left, he then passed away. And so the last words he ever did say to me was, "Give it everything you've got." So then it actually hit me. It was nearly like as if I felt a thump, and I thought, "Geez, I've got to do this now. Like I really have." So I walked in and I looked in the mirror and I said, "I am the world champion." I just looked at myself and I said, I visualized myself and I said, "I am the world champion, and now every decision I make from here till I'm world champion is going to be that of a world champion. And I'm going to, Dennis, go out tonight, like Dennis, do this, Dennis, do that. Is this what a world champion be doing?" A lot of times it's not. So just didn't do it, and I just lived that life. And like as I said, the bar was up here now, you know.
And it's paid off in spades. You look at where you're at, and it must be a rarefied view at the apex of your sport.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about resilience, because any journey to a level of success, whatever endeavor it might be in, usually comes with a series of challenges. The stuff that's plain sailing and too easy isn't a big enough goal. And I want to talk about 2 things, and neither of them are particularly pleasant to bring up, because I know one of them really does still rancor you. And that's, if we take a look at the investment world for a moment, like there are lots of things that can go wrong in people's journey. You can be in a scam and be robbed by somebody, and a lot more of that's happening in the cyber world these days. You hear it all the time. Or you can just be in a dud investment that doesn't perform, or maybe you weren't at your best when you picked it, whatever it might be. And if we try and perhaps draw a parallel with your career, let's go back to Mexico. And I know it's not a fun one for you to think about, because effectively you were robbed. And a lot of people use that as an excuse, but anyone that knows anything about boxing knows that you won that fight by a country mile, and yet the local Mexican, voted for by the Mexican judge around the ring, got the win. How do you bounce back from that?
Well, there's two things about that. The first one is I'm on video saying afterwards in the dressing room, Channel 7 was there and Chris Gary was there. They were doing an interview. And someone else had a phone, and I just said, you know what, tonight I became world champion, and I said, so I'm a champion in here, and now it's only a matter of time before I see the belt here.
So it's an unwavering, unshakable goal that it's going to be the outcome, and that's just almost just ignoring that as a distraction that it was.
Yeah, that's it. And you know, and then after that, it was, I went, you know, I was even throughout the pandemic, I got an exemption to go over to Vegas to fight a world title eliminator again, and effectively I was there for 7 weeks, and my opponent got COVID, so I had to come home and sit in hotel quarantine and all that. But as I was out there too, everyone was like, oh, you're the guy that got ripped off. I'll start becoming known as the guy who got ripped off. So I said, that can't be my...
That's not your identity.
That's not my identity. It didn't feel right. And I said, now I'm going to be the guy who that happened to, and still kept going and got there, and that was my identity, and it showed up. You know, last October we won the world championship, and now I'm the guy that overcame the odds and did it anyway. So
we can take a step back prior to you winning your championship, and that was the Tim Tszyu fight. And that would be a tough one. I know from our conversations, you went into that, you had an injury going into camp, and then subsequently into the fight. And that fight resulted in a stoppage. And I guess if we use the investment terminology again, I guess it wasn't the best version of you that was in the ring. The best version you could give on the night was there, but the best version of you wasn't there. I'd imagine on the back of that, and it was a physical fight, a lot of people would have said, Dennis, maybe it's time. And try and get in your head. Is that something you experienced where maybe not the right people around you, but people around you would start to say that sort of thing?
Well, yeah, no, I can answer that. So one of my best friends, we go catch up, have coffee, whatever, and he just said to me, he didn't plan saying this, I know, he just said it, he goes, have you thought about what you'd like to do after boxing? Yeah. And I was like, oh wow, it's like the moment froze for me, because my identity was so strong as a boxer, as the world champion. And I thought, oh, we're having this conversation, you know. And that, like, for me, it was just, let's go again. We're just going again. We're going again. But for me, then I actually sat back and I thought, wow, you know, close friends, even maybe my family is starting to, you know, maybe it is whatever. And I just said, you know what, you know, looking back at the Tim fight, I'll just say that, you know, had he beaten me anyway, all good, but broke my nose 6 weeks out. And it certainly wasn't the best Dennis Hogan that could have been in there. And you know, Dennis Hogan, any fight you watch, you'll never ever see me get tired. In that fight, I was very tired in even the third round. So camp was thrown on its head, but I wanted it so badly. Yep. You know, and unfortunately, I listened to people, because people were like, this could be your last time to get a big fight like this, and I should never have listened to exterior things. I shouldn't have really took the fight at that time, but I did, and he had a win. But again, going back, I said, I'm going to go back. I'm going to give it one more go, and I'm going to learn from all these everything. And if it's not to be, I can live with that. But I still inside knew I would win a world championship, and we went for it and got it.
So let's go to the night in question, and the ref lifts your arm up, and you're introduced. How did that feel?
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, I just got goosebumps there again thinking about it, because I'd visualised it for so long. You know, it was incredible to finally get there. But again, after that moment happened, and it was like, because for me it wasn't about wasn't about, you know, oh, I'm the champion of the world now. It was just the fact that it sort of was given to me, but yet taken back already. It was like I just finally got my hands. It's like I got a brand new car and someone took it away on me, and then, you know, and then they brought it back and I was driving it again.
Yeah.
So that's what it felt like for me.
Yeah.
And then, but you know, by the time we got back to the change rooms and everything else was happening, it was already like, yeah, this is how, you know, this is me, this is my belt here, and you know, and it was worth going back and doing it again, because the story as well that it's given, I'm sure it's, you know, to anyone, for, you know, especially with Mitch and MJB, and you know, it's about inspiration, and when you finally get there, it's about passing the ladder back down. And I think that my story will, when it's told properly, I think it should inspire lots of people to just not give up and keep going.
It's an interesting one. Like, a man with a dream won't be denied, is the quote, and I guess it's so true. And even when you're in the face of some decent adversity, which in your industry isn't numbers on a sheet, it's getting clocked in the head, and there's all the physical risk that goes alongside that, not necessarily financial. It's pretty hard to just say, no, I believe in myself, especially, I guess, if, you know, there are people that can get in your ear around that. Do you have like an inner circle? Obviously, you're a coach and trainer. Do you have like an inner circle that you talk to that really help you with your mental focus on what it's about, or is that just something that you have within yourself? Yeah,
look, I have built that, to be fair, but every now and again there's curveballs, and I have the right people there, and I do have a very small circle, and it's great. It's exactly what you need. There's somebody that I can talk to about anything. So,
yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
You've got to have people around you that can give you that guidance and expertise. But I guess ultimately it's also you that's climbing through the ropes, and it's you that has to deliver. So how do you handle the pressure of that with a family to support, a wonderful wife, a team, the weight of that belt around your waist, being the world champion? There's an awful lot of pressure. So how do you separate that pressure to focus on the task at hand rather than the emotional push that can sometimes come with all of that? Yeah,
look, like, you know, and I don't get any, I was only saying, I don't get this much anymore. I used to get, you know, people jump on and they'd question your ability. Yeah. And I love that, because then I'll save it and I'll pull it up on my phone. I'll read the comment before I go training, and that gets me up. You know, I'll train well anyway, but I use all that stuff, and you know, I have that go in me, and you know, it's just always there. But you know, like, you can use any sort of inspiration to get you going, keep you going. You know, I've been very, very sort of aware as well with family and time and everything else, but I am still boxing at my best, and you know, because it is a dangerous sport, and a lot of people want to get in, do the best they can and get out. You know, I could be sitting there and something will come up about fights on Top Rank, and you're literally seeing two guys fight and one guy just completely rendered unconscious. And before I'd won the title, I'm like, am I really doing this still? I just flick off real quick and say, you know, I have an affirmation. I have a great chin, very strong body. I dodge out punches, I'm too quick, and I just move on from the thought. Yeah. You know? So can we just go back to that? So you have an affirmation that you use on yourself to give yourself that mental tune-up. Yeah. Because again, for mere mortals, looking at someone that's getting in a ring and about to cop some punishment, it's got to take some serious confidence in your skill and your ability. Yeah. Walk us through the mental prep, if we can dive into that, from, say, gloved up, you're in the changing room. Yeah. Maybe, how many people do you have in the changing room just prior to going in the ring? About 5 or 6. Right, so you get cuts man, corner man, and trainer. Yeah, fellow do the pads, and you know, if some sponsors will walk in and say hello and that, but in the last 15 minutes, just everyone's close. Yeah, yeah.
So what goes through your head then? That's you in the gloves, and
you know, you're sitting there and you're like, this is my whole life. You know, you really know that this is the pressure of, and not just me, my family now too. So it's like, I know I can win this fight, but it's boxing, anything can happen. So you're sort of faced with that adrenaline. But again, like I say, I use that adrenaline. So I'll take it back to fight week. So fight week, everything is just a process, right? When I'm in a ring sparring, in the last 3 to 4 spars is always when things come, like, I'm really on now. And my coach always says, he goes, it's always in the last 3 weeks, you become near flawless. And so I've seen what I can do, and I know what I can do. We've got a great plan, and that's all good. Now, every now and again, someone will start talking about the fight, and your body will start to physiologically react to that, and you'll start to feel what people call nerves. It's adrenaline. And if you let that feeling stay and linger, it will burn you out, and you'll be doing yourself a disservice and your opponent a big favour. So I know how to just go, see myself as winning and drop it, and I can just calm my body like that, and that will keep going until fight week. Then you're starting to make weight, and you're in that process. Visualise winning, especially if. So I don't let the adrenaline take over at all. Now you get these feelings, but when I get into the change room and I'm sitting there, even on fight day, it'll start to happen. Deep breaths. When I start to get my hands wrapped, that's when it starts to come on, and I let it. And it nearly feels like it lifts me to the ceiling with adrenaline. And once I get my hands wrapped and I feel, and I'm just like, geez, I feel dangerous. And I'm like, now let the adrenaline come. Because now is where it is. Because if you go in and spar, you go in and fight without adrenaline, you're not going to be any good. Adrenaline is there for a reason. And so with all of that will come, a thought will come, oh, if you don't lose this, where do you go? And people think, you know, that could be if someone's an anxious person, they'll think they're feeling like that because of the thought. They're not. It's the feeling that's coming up, and the thoughts are arising, but really it's just adrenaline that's preparing you to win this fight. And that's the way I look at it. And the more nervous I feel, the more I know I'm going to perform. And that's how I fine tune, you know, because if you let yourself go down that rabbit hole, even leave you alone for 30 seconds, you can talk yourself into losing that fight. You can say, this guy is, my last opponent retired 3 world champions. Paulie Malignaggi, you might have heard of him, everyone probably has. Carlos Molina, the IBF world champion, and Frankie Gavin, an English world champion. And they all got in with him, and he retired, like he beat them, he knocked them out, and they never ever fought again. And I was going to be his fourth.
And you got that wrong.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. And you know, even in Mexico, I'll never forget this moment. Jaime Munguia was knocking everybody out, and we went in, and my coach was going back over the game plan, and I just stopped for a second. Again, I have these freezing time moments. There's 16,000+ people up there. They're all screaming for him. This guy has been knocking everybody out, and early, and I'm about to go out there. I could be lying on my back in front of the whole world. You know, and or broken ribs or whatever it is, and then I just went, nah, I've got this, and it was like a suction back in and then back on with the game plan, and I can just control that feeling. So
I think it's going back a little while now, probably about maybe 12 or 13 years ago. I did a tour around with Mike Tyson and got to spend quite a bit of time with Mike, and we talked specifically about that journey from being in the dressing room to in the ring. And he said the closer he got to the ring, the more confident he got. And he said it carried a fear, you know, fear of being humiliated. But the closer he got to the ring, the stronger and more confident he was when he was in the ring. I'm a god. And that mental, that change in tone, everything that he said, it was like almost knocked me out listening to it. So how do you control that surge in adrenaline? Let me get at him. I can't wait to get my hands on the guy. To take a step back then and go, okay, we're up, the adrenaline is there, we're focused, we've trained, we're in the right place. But how do you stick to your strategy? Or is it an element of reaction as well?
Well, I'll make it even more intriguing for you. You're in the ring and you're doing well, you're boxing very well, and then they have a surge of energy and you just have a lull, and it'll happen. Maybe around 5 or 6, your legs will go dead. There is a wall there, your legs will go dead or something will happen, and he'll surge in and he'll land a good few shots on you. Or he may hit you a body shot and you've got to suck in some air. In that moment, this is exactly what happened. He hit me 1 or 2 body shots before that I felt. They were very sore, they were sucking air, but there was one he hit me and I had to wait for those 2 seconds to see if I was going to drop. And I knew that I was going to have a lull for about 10 seconds, but I could not let him see it. So instead of walking backwards and trying to get a break, because he knew he landed, he felt it on his knuckle, what I did was I started to pretend to move forward on him, and he started to walk back. So I started moving forward. I had no intention in engaging. And either he came at me or I moved off. but I gave him the illusion. But that was for me. That was to do that. And then as I had him going backwards, I then took that time then to assess, what's my next move? What's my body like? Okay, you're getting your breath back. Okay, you don't want to take any more of those. So how do we avoid doing that? Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll feint, we'll move to the left, we'll move away from the hand, and we'll hook them on the way out, and we'll buy ourselves another 20 seconds while still winning the round. And you just take those few seconds to assess. And you know, if I hadn't come up with a smart plan, I might have ran for another while till the next objective and little strategy came into my head.
This is really interesting because, again, someone that hasn't been in the ring, it's a very hard thing to understand. And if you've watched the sport, you still can't understand what's going on in the head of the fighter at the time. And it shows that, as I said right at the start, you know, a lot of people, you know, refer to boxing as poor man's chess, and it is a very, very strategic sport. You can't go all out and burn out. You can't cop it. It's that balance in the middle, and that, I guess, maintenance of control mentally, that you're the ascendant in the fight, irrespective of whether you are or not. That sort of bluster, I suppose, until you recover from taking a shot and then put the pressure back on again.
Yeah.
In terms of investing, one of the most dangerous things that we see in our space, because there are so many parallels to this, Dennis, insofar as probably the most dangerous time is when you feel overconfident in markets. In a fight situation, have you seen an opponent that's perhaps got overconfident before you've ended the fight for them?
Well, you know, it's true as they say, be humble or get humbled. You know, and even when I'm going into a spar, I always get that adrenaline. It feels like nerves, but it's adrenaline, because even if I'm going in against anybody, like I've gone in one day, I got some good news and things were good, and I came in chirpy, you know, and I wasn't myself. I didn't have that adrenaline, and I got in and I copped some shots. Like I had a headache after and didn't box my best, and you know, essentially what was it? Well, you weren't at your best, so you weren't assessing the situation 100%, and you weren't, you know, just a little bit anxious, a healthy anxious to not make the wrong move, and you threw sometimes when you shouldn't have, and you know, just because you know, and so
is that a self-imposed pressure you put on yourself, where you feel like you need to be busier in the round, or you're chasing the fight? What?
In this exact example, I'm saying what you're saying in terms of being overconfident. Yep. You know, just doing that little bit too much. You know. Because when you sit back and you get right back to balance again, and you're feeling humble, and you know this guy, you're giving him his credit, he's dangerous, just like the market would be dangerous, and you're doing all these things, you get in the zone, and then that's when you do your best boxing, and you'll do things really good anyway. But if you're sitting there, you're not in the zone, and you're overconfident, you know, you're going to cop a big shot. It's inevitable. Yeah. Even when I was speaking inside, I said something that was confident, and I looked for wood to say touch wood, because if I'm not humble, I know that life humbles me instantly. It's just the way it's been for me, and it'll happen to me in every.
I think that's a really interesting quote, in that it's not putting yourself down when you say that either, because being humble is actually the ultimate sign of strength, because you're choosing to be humble, and that's a massive sign of strength when you can dial yourself back like that. In terms of, I guess, the future for you, you've kicked a goal that you've had and carried for, I'm not going to give your age away, but for a number of decades of being a world champ. You've achieved that. What's next? What's the stretch goal after you're at the top of the pile? Is it to stay at the top of the pile for as long as you choose, or is there something beyond that for you in terms of what's getting you up in the morning now and getting you hitting the road for your training?
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, you guys will have a bit to do with that too, in terms of, you know, away from boxing, just getting into something that I really enjoy doing and spending a bit more time doing that. And, you know, boxing in the next, like I've just, a fighter from Ireland called Gary Cully put something beautifully. He said he signed with Matchroom, which are the biggest promoters in the world. And he said,
so you've just recently, you're with Eddie and Barry Hearn with Matchroom.
I've just signed.
And you've got a
a multi-fight deal. So every time if I win one, I'll get it. So but there's 3 deals. There's 3 fights on the table now, regardless. And as that other fighter put there, he said, this for me as a boxer is like signing for Manchester United, who as kids would dream for. And he's right. And this is, I've literally now just got that. You know, I've been I've been away in Australia. I've come to Europe. I've come to Mexico. I've come to America. I won a North American title back in 2015. You know, so I've been there. I've won all the continental titles I could get my hands on. It was just that elusive world title, nearly like when I was a kid with that Irish title, till it happened for me, through perseverance and stuff. But yeah, so it's yeah.
So what's the stretch goal? Is it to have a...
So it's the now. So the guy that I'm fighting next and defending against in Ireland, he's ranked third in the world in another sanctioning body, and I believe that a good win against him, I could be fighting for a unified title. It's the goal. As long as I'm feeling good, it's to get money that I can actually. Now I'll never stop doing anything, because I know you get old when you stop. It's not you stop when you get old. So I understand that, and I've got a lot of other stuff that I want to do. You know, public speaking being one of them, and all this. But I've got this dream of accumulating enough money that I don't have to do, but I will do stuff anyway. Setting up my family and doing stuff that I want to do on a daily basis, and that's what I'm following right now. And you know, this fight deal will provide that. What you guys do with Australian investing will provide that, and I'm just slowly plodding along, making it a reality.
I think it's a fascinating journey, and sometimes that chapter after the career is probably the most exciting chapter. Being a dad, and your girls are pretty 6 and 4 roughly, 5 and 4,
5 and 3,
5 and 3. We're close. Is going to keep you on your toes for a long time. That's for sure. I hope they bring some good boys home when they get older, because I can imagine if they open the door and you're there, they'd be dropping off, not picking up. But putting that to the side. This has been really fascinating to get inside the head of a true champion. As I say, people throw the term "g'day champ" around. It's an Australian term, but in this instance, it's most sincerely the way to describe the man who is the world boxing champion. It's an incredible accolade to have, a well-earned one. It's not happened by accident. But I think that level of resilience that you've demonstrated throughout your career is a muscle memory and a skill set that's got you to where you are. And I certainly hope in the next 3 fights, as I enjoy watching them, you get to show the rest of the world what Dennis Hogan is capable of. So thank you so much for joining us today on Money and Investing, Dennis. It's been an interesting journey since we've known each other. It's been great to see your career reach the level it has, and look forward to seeing what happens next. So thanks a million for joining us, my friend.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for everything you do with this as well. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers.
Thank you.
There you have it, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, hit the notification button, and we'll see you next week.